determine that today you will overcome yourself of the day before. Tomorrow you will win over those of lesser skill, and later you will win over those of greater skill. Miyamoto Musashi. My friends, it's all about what you determine to excel at. It's really that. Do you want to be good at charting? You can be. You just have to stick with it and have that determination. And once you get there, you don't have to worry about how long it takes. Some it'll take longer than others. What you've got to do is stick with it and watch the market deliver for you once you obtain the skill set that is required. Let's jump into these charts. We see stocks, gold, and Bitcoin up for the day. The only thing down is 20-year bonds. Let's first jump into the S&P 500. Now, if we zoom into the weekly chart, you can see that again, we're trying to make some progress. If we follow this over, we're not in the green yet. We started, and again, I set this up not because I was excited about jumping in, but simply because it had crossed over. We didn't talk about jumping in. One of the reasons was we did have some decent down movement here, but when things started over, we had a weak spinning top, not a nice moving up strong, followed by, again, another spinning top. We didn't have something that flipped over and then turned into nice green candles arcing up, or right here where you went from a red doji right into a green candle moving up. We did have a little bit higher than average down movement, which was good trying to seek the bottom, but again, hasn't been super strong. Things are struggling to move in the right direction. And of course, if you have a favorite stock or ETF that you trade and you backtrack and you go back in time and see what the most helpful movements are and what you need to be looking at, of course, those things can help you in determining the pattern that best suits the movement that you're hoping to see and whether or not that's occurring. So again, looks like the market is trying to move forward, but again, none of this is aggressive or beautiful like we saw here before in these very successful prior up moves. We had that one trick out that occurred back in May of last year. Well, again, sloppy moving forward. As we move from the weekly, we can see that the 2-day is right there again on the weekly trend line. Half day had moved below it over 2 days and now is back above it. And we'll just see how things continue to go, what's up as we hit the end of the week. Now, the NASDAQ 100 has been a little stronger than the S&P. We can see on the half-day chart, never crossed below it, came down and touched it, but never crossed below it. If we zoom into the weekly chart, you can see again about in the same place, but we don't have spinning tops here. We had a wick at the bottom that first week, but after that, we've had green up candles, not big ones, not strong ones, not what you see here, not what you see here. And of course, we talked about that fake out in the past, not what you see here. Because you'll see a spinning top the next week, after you've reached the bottom many times, not always, like right here, but you need a nice green up candle after that. If you start getting a struggling candle, then of course you can be want to jump in because it gets sloppy and hard. But we see over and over again this pattern, don't we? So look for patterns, see what they teach you. Now, not saying this isn't going to eventually take off. It could. It hasn't yet going into week 3. So again, we're primed and ready for a potential reversal and a down move if that occurs. Now, what do we see on 20-year bonds? Well, down for the day, 0.72%. Of course, we saw bonds get real sloppy right in here. We saw green, back to red, green, back to red, green, red, and then it moved down, then another green. Not been real happy. Bonds had been quite nice a good year or so ago. Even had a little bit of room to potentially capture something here and here and here. but then it started getting real slippery. You can see sort of how it started getting weaker in the nice moves. And since then, quite weak and not helpful. So where are bonds now? Down for the day. We do see that bonds came up, tried to push through on the 2-day chart through the weekly trend line, then rolled back down. And we can see where bonds rolled down and has stayed under since they rolled over, going down back on the 5th of September. So again, not excited particularly about bonds. We haven't even hit the low that bonds hit back on the 21st of August. That low was $92.23. Where are we now? We're at we closed at $93.79. So again, a good $1.50 still higher. So that's not helpful. Now let's move on to gold. Gold up a little bit for the day. You can see sort of at the end of the day with a lot of volume down in the morning. And about a third of that maybe in the afternoon as we look at that half-day chart. 2-day chart is well below the weekly trend line, as is the half-day, as is the weekly chart itself with a doji for the week. So gold not catching on fire at all. Bitcoin up a little bit for the day, 1.99%. We can see where Bitcoin tore up on Tuesday morning, then dropped Tuesday afternoon, then sort of sideways up a little bit on Wednesday, popped up decently on Thursday morning, settled back a little in the afternoon. Got a doji for the week on the weekly chart. Green candle pushing through the weekly trend line on the 2-day. So is Bitcoin getting ready to take off and make another move? Can't say that it is. We did see a pop up back here on the 29th of August, where it popped up in the morning and further in the afternoon, then died. But this is 3 days of trying to make some green up movement. So we'll keep our eye on Bitcoin. That is where we are, folks. Patreon members, you will find at the Patreon site. We'll also be emailing to you. Charting cryptos, commodities, and currencies, the 3-wave trades as the curated liquid stocks and ETFs with liquid options that we curate for you once a week to give you some fun things to potentially practice trade, along with the weekly vertical crossovers on the S&P 500. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.